Hello everyone, happy Monday. So like today, cheering me that because it's Monday, we're gonna focus on our lower body strength and our abs today. So it's gonna be fun. Starting off the warm-up, we will not need anything but our bodies and our mat, but for our exercises, we need to bring our chair, our bench, our ottoman, something to elevate us off the floor. And we will also be using our dumbbells and or our loop bands if you have them. So let's get you started. Down on the floor, best way to start, best place to start. Come on down here, laying on your back, and I'm tucking all the way down on your back. We're gonna lift up one leg, grab that knee with the opposite hand, take a big breath in, and then we'll exhale and pull that knee all the way over to that one side, seeing if we can get close to the floor, maybe touch the floor, and then we'll come back up to the top, putting that leg down, lifting up our opposite one, grabbing opposite hand, exhaling, seeing if we can get, again, close, maybe touching the floor. Might not happen on the first few, but we're doing 10 of them. So maybe by the end of 10, 5 on each side, we'll be able to get this knee a little closer to the floor. That's the goal on this one. So we'll keep this opposite hand down. Again, try to exhale, as that's gonna help us sink a little bit deeper into this one. 10 total, 5 per side. So it feels so nice. It's gonna help you loosen up your back, your hips, a little bit in that upper body. Once you are done, don't get too keen on standing up. We're gonna sit up into our 90-90 position that we know, we love, maybe. We're sitting in here, seeing how we feel. First off, creating these two 90-degree angles, one in each of our knees. We wanna make sure the bottom of the foot lines up with the top of the shin like this. And then again, the goal here is to sit up with no support of the hands, although some of us might need to kind of lean back a bit to make this comfortable. We're gonna lock the heels in place and flip the legs over to one side, trying to make contact with the inside of this knee, the outside of this leg, and then we'll come back over to the other side, completing 10 of these total, 5 on each side. Again, if you can have your arms up like so bendy, then that's great. And again, if you need to lean back, that is also great. Should be not painful, okay? So we'll get through 10, and then once we're finished 10, we're gonna take our shoulders and square them off towards the leg with the outside of the leg facing down. So we wanna turn the shoulders over here. What we're going to try to do, get the hip down, the foot is going to stay down, this knee is going to lift up into this external rotation. So we're trying to lift up the knee to the ceiling as high as we can. Some of us are going to be able to get a little higher than others. 10 total here. Again, if you need to lean back slightly, that's okay. And if your butt is not touching the floor, that is also okay. So we'll go through 10 of those, seeing how they feel. Once we're done 10, we're gonna keep this knee down and see if we can lift that foot up or that heel up. So this one is definitely a little bit more challenging. We're tapping into small muscles in the sides of our hips. So we might feel a little bit of a cramping sensation. If you cannot lift up that foot, like if it's just simply not happening, we'll lean over this side and try to make that happen, okay? Going through 10 of those, lifting her up. Once we're finished 10 and 10, we'll flip the legs over, and we have to do this on the other side. So again, taking the shoulders, squaring them off to that side, outside of the leg facing down, starting off with lifting up this knee. Am I in the camera? Yes, I am. 10 of them. My feet are a little bit cut off. That's okay. 10 of these total. And then once we're finished 10 of that lift, we will again try to see if we can lift up that foot. Woo, look at me go here. So some days I find with this one are better than others. It really depends on what's going on in your hips. We're activating these little muscles in the sides of our hips, which is why you might find it's a bit easier to lean forward, as it just puts us into a more open position to use them. So 10 and 10, woo! And then we're gonna stand up off the floor, get on off the floor. For the next one, into a squat stance. So we're standing a little bit wider than our hips. We have an angle out on our toes. We're going to sit down into a squat, trying to get our hands as close to the floor as possible. When we get down here, we're gonna lift up right arm, left arm, and then stand up to the top. That's 1, arms go back down, as close as we can, maybe even touching the floor. Right arm, left arm, standing up to the top. That's 2. We're doing 10 of these total. So some of us, again, might not be able to sit as low as others, and that just depends on you, your body, your mobility. trying our best to get our arms straight before we stand up. So we sit down, arm above our head. We don't want to see our hands, okay? 2, and then up to the top. So we'll go through 10 of those total. And while you do that, I'm going to get my list out because those are the ones that I have memorized. All right, perfect. So we'll get through those ones, 10 of them. The next one is all about our leg swings. So we're going to warm up and loosen up everything in our hips, positioning ourselves close to something that we can hold onto. So we use this wall right here, and then kick my leg forward and backward. There and back is 1. We'll go through 10. There and back. 10 on this side, kicking that leg forward and backward. This arm can just hang out. Once we're finished 10, we're turning, facing that wall, kicking that leg sideways now, side to side. 10 there and back as well. So this one here. So this one's going to loosen up. We'll feel that one in our inner thigh a little bit on the outside of the leg, whereas that forward back one's more of a front and back. So we'll do that on both sides, naturally, making it even. So back to this one. Swinging it out. Okay, so 10. And then the sideways, 10. Very nice. Okay, we got one more up here, and then one more down on the floor. This next one is a side lunge variation. So I'm going to come over to one side so I have some space over on one side of my mat. Stepping out into a side lunge. When I get down here, I'm going to shift back over to the side that I started on, and then push myself up to the top. That's 1. We are doing 10. So again, shifting the hips to the side, we'll feel that inner thigh open up. Pushing ourselves up to the top, arms can come down, and then they'll come back in front of us as we come down into that side lunge. It's really important when we're doing these side lunges, anytime we're doing them, to think about pushing the butt out, the hips back. So we have a bit more of a forward lean going on, and that is to help keep our knees back behind our toes. So we'll go through 10 of these, 5 per side, and then we're coming back down, my friends, onto the floor for the final one. Hopefully we're feeling warm. Warmer than when we started. Okay, last one is on our back. We're going to dead bug it out to the end of our warm-up, lifting up our legs and our arms. Arms are extended out of the shoulders. Legs are right on top of the hips, knees on the hips. Straight arms, bent legs. We're going to lower opposite arm, opposite leg, lifting them back up to the top, pushing our lower back down into the floor as the most important thing here. So we want to make sure there's no space underneath our back. The next thing we want to focus is our breathing. So as we go down, exhale, come up, inhale, go down, exhale. 20 reps total. So this one's all about our core activation, which again is going to become more effective if we can incorporate that breathing, and it's crucial that we keep that back down, okay? So we'll get through those ones. 20, 10 on each side, and we are alternating. So we go one side, and then the other side, 20 of them. Okay, so by the end of that, we should be feeling a lot in our abs and our core, hopefully. Okay, so we'll get through those ones. As we are coming to an end, hairball, we are gonna stand back up, grab some water, and get ourselves started on our first part of our strength. So what we're going to need for this, the very first part, is our chair, or again, your bench, your ottoman, something to lift up our back foot for our rear foot elevated split squats. So I'm going to set up in front of my chair. This first set, we're going to do body weight, and we are going to pair this with something that's going to use our bands. So eventually I'm also going to add in my dumbbells, but for some of us, we might be good body weight. So we're going to do our first set, considering this a warm-up set, with no weight, all right? So I'm going to position myself so I have a little bit of space between myself and the chair. My shoe, or where my shoelaces would be, because I'm not wearing shoes, is down on top of that chair like this. And then we're going down to 90 degrees and holding for 1, 2, and then we stand up to the top. That's 1. We're doing 10 total. So we go down 1, 2, every single rep. We're pausing for 2 seconds at the very bottom. So at this 90-degree angle at the knee, we hold, and then we push ourselves back up, 10 reps on this side. Okay, and then we'll switch and do 10 on the other. Starting your first set right now. Let's do it. So for those of you who don't have the chair, something to elevate your back foot. Keep in mind, you can always use like a stool or a stair if you have those in your house, which you probably do. Or you can just put your foot on the floor like this and go through the pause without that elevation, okay? So let's start our first set. Again, body weight to start. And we are going to be adding some weight to this for most of us, okay? Some of us, again, if we're challenged by the body weight, or again, for those of us who don't have weights or bands, then you can just continue to do body weight for our next few sets. But what we are going to do is add some weight to this. Before we go into that set, we're going to talk about our pairing exercise. So this one is going to require our bands. I'm going to use this blue one, which is like a medium strength loop band here. We can go light to medium. We don't want to use too heavy of a band. And again, you don't necessarily need this, although it is recommended, highly recommended. But for those of you who don't have it, then we're just going to do the same thing without the band. So coming over to one side of the mat, standing hip width apart in my feet, I'm going to go soft knees, push my hips back so we feel that tightness in the back of the hips. We're doing our banded side steps in that X pattern. So I'm going to step backward to here, and then forward to here, and then I go backward, hip width apart, forward, hip width apart. The whole time, I'm trying to keep my butt in this sort of backward position. It's going to help me feel everything through the glutes and the backside as we go through these. So again, we want to go sideways and forward, and then sideways and backward. There and back is 1, so the length of our mat, and we're going to do it 2 times. So because my chair kind of takes up a little bit of my mat, I'll just go a bit further than the end of the mat, and then I'll bring it on back. That would be 1. You are doing 2 times total. So there and back, and then again, twice. Okay, so let's get this one done. First set, we should feel this, of course, in the sides of our hips, as you're probably already feeling. And again, if you're not, it's very important that you are hinging your hips and pushing them back to feel that tension. So once you've finished those, we are going back to the split squats for 3 more sets of the split squats and the side steps, but we're going to hopefully add some more weight, or add some weight to begin with into these split squats. So what I'm going to do is use my 2 8-pound dumbbells stacked up like this to make a 16-pounder. And we're going to bring it back into our setup, back foot up on that chair, weights are over on this side, strong arm that's not holding the weights, and we'll start our first official set. Okay, 2 seconds at the bottom. We go down and we hold 1, 2, and then we push ourselves out. All right, so let's start that set there. And I say first official set because the one we did before was essentially a warm-up set. Okay, this one we should be adding some resistance with the dumbbells, or you can also use, you can also use your bands. Okay, wrapped around opposite foot, and then we can have that pause at the bottom. A little bit more space. Okay, so let's start this set here. Again, 2 seconds, no matter what you're using. 10 reps on each side. Very nice. Let's get it in. Okay, so we'll work through these ones. Do they ever get easier? Yes, but we're always doing stuff in these split squats to make them more challenging and to make them feel very uncomfortable. So it's probably what you're feeling right now. But the nice part about today is that we're doing them first. We're kind of getting them out of the way as the first superset. So this set plus 2 more, and then we shall move on to the next 2 movements. Okay, so again, back to those side steps. Take that band, put it around the ankles. All right, this one again, we have to be very conscious about what we're doing with our body because it can be really easy. We're just kind of standing up and walking to the sides. You're probably not even gonna feel it, all right? You're kind of just going through the motions, essentially wasting your time. So we wanna be feeling that tightness first before we start to move, okay? And that is down here when we push the hips back and we create that tension back there. So that is Very important as you go through this one. The other very important thing is not allowing your feet to come too close. So as soon as I lose tension on the band like this, I'm losing tension on the hips. So we want to go wider and then hip width, okay? Never closer, and we don't need to step out like too wide or else it's just going to be a little bit kind of like walking like a penguin. And we want to try our best to control that upper body so we can be less penguin-y. All right, so we'll get through the second set. Very nice. Okay, we have 2 more to go. Yes, and we are not taking any rest. Didn't mention it, but I usually do. I always do if we do have the rest, okay? So once we're finished those side steps, take a couple deep breaths, grab some sips of water, that's okay. But there is no time on the clock, no prescribed rest before we are going to start our next set. Okay, again, we have 2 more with the weight to make it 3 total weighted ones. All right, let's do it. Then, awesome. Okay, so we'll get through this third set. Split squats. Try and get down to 90 degrees. There you go. With that pause, okay? So again, by the end of 10, the 10 reps, you should be feeling very uncomfortable, like you need to stop, okay? We don't want to be thinking like, yeah, probably do 12, probably do 15, okay? And if you could, they'd be very wobbly and not very stable, right? Because you're so tired by the end of 10. So if you're not really feeling that way, you have this set and the next one to achieve that for yourself. And again, some of us just might need to do this because we don't have that resistance or that weight to make this feel challenging. So if you need to, on your next set, we're going to stick with that 2-second pause on the bottom, but we can slow down our descent. Okay, this can be done with weights, without weights, with a band, whatever you're using. We can take more time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2 at the bottom, and then we stand up normal. Rather than 1, 2, and then the 2, and then stand that extra 2 seconds. I know it doesn't sound like a lot. It's 2 seconds. That's so fast, but it makes a huge difference, okay? And you'll feel it. So if you are, again, feeling like you could keep going by the end of this 10, that is what I would like you to do, is add in those extra 2 seconds now to your descent, okay? Only on the way down, taking longer to get down to the bottom. There you go. So that we're all feeling very uncomfortable, because that's the goal. That's why we're here. All right, so we'll get through this set of the split squats right into those sides. Okay, and then we have 1 more set of both. So we have to do 1 more round of both the split squats and the side steps. And then we are going to move on for these 2. And then we're done, the split squats. So that is something to look forward to. All right. So we'll work through this last set. Okay. Again, you can do this with the dumbbells, with the band. All right, just taking longer to get down to the bottom, and then standing up to the top. So anytime we're trying to make exercises harder, right, very often I will talk about time under tension, adding more time to each rep, and that is the most beneficial when we add that on the way down. That's our lowering phase, our eccentric phase. It requires the most control. So that's what's going to make our reps and our sets feel much more challenging, is slowing down that descent, all right? Same rules apply for our side steps. If we are to simply just take a little bit longer to go through each one, we're going to be in this tense position longer, okay, rather than just, trying to get through them very fast. You're probably not going to feel it as much if you rush your set. So this is your final reminder to slow the heck down, all right, because this is your last set. And you have about 2 minutes to finish her up, which should be enough time. Should be plenty of time. Okay. There it is. So, finishing strong here. We are Going to finish this final set here. As we are coming to an end, some of us, we're going to finish sooner than others. If you're not adding in that time, you're not doing any extra, you're probably already done, and that's completely fine. So if you are finishing up early, grab some water, shake it out, think about how good you feel. We're going to move on to the next part, which is going to use all of this stuff still, okay? So we need the chair, we need our dumbbells for, I will check. Okay, so we'll give you about 1 more minute to split squat out. As we are finishing up, the next one is going to start off with a lunge version, which we're going to talk about, and we're also going to be doing a hip thrust variation. So bands are going to be used over here on this chair. If you have the bands and the dumbbells, if you are using bands only, then we are going to talk about those for our lunges as well. Let's start talking about it. Second exercise, superset. We're going to start off with a reverse lunge, where I'm going to take these weights now and separate them. So I'm holding one in each hand. If you're working with heavy dumbbells, like if you only have a couple heavy dumbbells with you, then you can just keep the weight on one side. You don't necessarily need to hold 2. But mine are 8-pounders, so I'm going to hold 1 in each. We're stepping back into a lunge, and then at the top, we're going to drive our knee all the way up to 90 degrees at the hip and at the knee. And then we go back down into that lunge, and then I stand and I try to pull myself up to the top here. So I'm not using my back foot to push. This is very important. When we get down here, we almost want to lift that back foot up. Woo! Easier said than done. And then we drive up to the top. We'll be going through 12 of these on each side, okay? So we're going to start our first set. Again, if your dumbbells are pretty heavy, you can't quite do that pull-up situation with 2 weights. You can just drop 1, use the 1, and we're still going to keep that knee drive. It's very important so we can get full work on this standing leg. So 12 over here. Woo, a little bit of bounce. 12 on this side, and then we'll switch. We'll do 12 on the other. And if you're working with bands, you can have that same situation as the split squats with the band underneath the foot. And then we stand, and you won't be able to drive your knee up as high just because where the band is, but we'll still try to bring it forward so that we can get that squeeze on that standing leg. So we'll work through 12 and 12 for our first set, our second exercises. Very nice. Okay, and that is our first one. Second one, I already gave you a teaser on. So finish both sides. We are going to be working with a knee banded hip thrust. So I'm going to be taking my bands, setting myself up, sitting on my chair. This is a heavy band, okay? I'm going to use this one. It's black. We're probably not going to see it that well on my dark pants, but that's okay. We're going to put her on here so it's right above my knee, okay? So right kind of in this position right here. Again, if you don't have bands, you don't necessarily need to use them, okay? But we're still going to think about the same things as the bands as we would if we have bands. So I'm going to lower myself down onto my chair, my bench, like this. We're going to take the knees and push them out. So there's tension on the band, tension on the hips. We want to bring our ribs and pelvis to do a bit of a crunch. That's important so that we don't end up flaring our ribs. Chin is tucked, looking at your knees the whole time. We're going to lower and then push up to the top and hold here until we feel our butt, all right? So it might be 1 second, it might be 3, it might be 5, and then we lower down when we start to feel it, and we go back up to the top, and we're doing 20 reps. My friends, 2-0. Yes, this is not a drill, let's do it. So 20 of these, again, not leaving until we feel some stuff, some action happening back here. And as we go through the set, you won't need to hold it as long because we're waking everything up back there. You're doing 20 of them, okay? So if you hold it, for 5 seconds on that first rep, it might be less and less every rep because you start to really feel it back there because we're getting tired and working it in the glutes, which is what we're going for. So 20 of them. Woo! If you don't have that chair, that bench, it's cool. You can do this on the floor. Same rules apply if you have the band. Okay, and then we go through our set of 20. All right, touching back down and then pushing up to the top. All right, so this is us. Now, this one, we are going to take some rest. Okay, we have that 30 to 45 second rest period that we're going to take right when we finish up those hip thrusts. Okay, so 20 of them, woohoo, and then we will grab some water. Okay, stand up. You can sit down. It doesn't really matter what you do, but we do want to add in this rest period so that we give everything in our glutes and our backside, this time to rest, all right? Because both of these movements use very similar muscles. And you feel it, AKA your butt, okay? So we're taking this time. We have great time to get water in. Going through 3 more rounds, just as we did it, okay? So we're going back into that first one after our little rest period. Trying to keep that rest under a minute as well, okay? So that we can get through the stuff. Back into our lunges. Okay, going through these ones, holding, again, 2 dumbbells or 1 dumbbell, whatever you're working with. And we're going through 12 on each side. Okay, so for this one, we're trying to channel in the skater squats. That skater squat energy that we practice, that we know. Probably don't love them, that's okay. But in those ones, we're trying to not use our back leg at all, just pull ourselves up. Okay, and that's not what we're doing here, but I want you to think about that same thing. As you go back into the lunge, 100% of the work's in this front hip, and it's gonna pull you off and out of that position. And if you can do that, rather than just kind of going down and up and using that back leg and pushing yourself up and using that momentum, you're gonna get way more out of this, okay? So let's get that in, 12 and 12. I'm going to turn this fireplace down. Very warm. Okay. Let's do it. And all right, so 12 and 12. Very nice. And then we have the hip thrust. So we're not adding weight to the hips, okay, unless you really need something in order to feel this more. Most of us probably have these glute bands, okay? And most of us are probably going to feel this with or without the bands if we pause and if we really focus on those first, 5 to 10 reps, really getting that feeling going. Because that's the most important here, is that you're feeling that squeeze and that contraction in your glutes. If you're feeling it in other places, like quads, your lower back, okay, the hips, whatever it is, that's not good. They're not getting the work that you should be getting in this one. So, and if you need to, just simply take more time with it. Okay? Think about it a little bit more. It's that mind-to-muscle connection, connecting your brain to your muscles, in this case, your glutes, your butte, which I often will talk about the fact that they are lazy-ass muscles because we always sit. And again, we're kind of putting them into a stretch or lengthened position. So it's just simply not normal for us to be activating our glutes unless we are training, unless we're actually using them for our leg exercises. And so that's why some of us are going to have to, again, just sort of slow her down a little, think about it a bit more as we go through our set. That's most important to do on your first 5 to 10, okay, because we're going up to 20, which is much more than we normally do. Those first ones, if we can really lock that in and get that feeling going, then again, you won't have to hold it as long on the last few, and we'll really get it going on back there. Okay, so we'll rest. Resting, doing again whatever you want for that 30 to 45 seconds. And then we have 2 more sets of this very fun stuff for the glutes. There we go. Okay. Let's do it. On to our 3rd set. Okay, so back into those lunges. And because we are, training in 2 exercises that are working these similar muscles, we're probably feeling more tired as we go through these sets, and that is normal with this one, okay? So try to just push through and do the exact same thing that you did on those last couple sets that you did for these last 2. So same knee drive at the top, okay? High chest, and Let's do it. There you go. Okay, 12 and 12. The lunges. Okay. And then we'll work with a set of hip thrusts. Okay, so especially for those of you who are on the floor, it is very important that when we go through our set, as we come down, we're thinking about pushing our back to the floor rather than our butt. Because if we're pushing our butt down, we're probably going to end up arching our back like this, which is not good on this one, okay? We want to pull the core in, pull the back down, and you'll feel much more here, okay? And less in, again, those other places like your quads, your lower back, if we can get that positioning with our pelvis and our hips. Okay, and that also applies up on this chair, and that's that little crunch thing that we did there. By sort of bringing our ribs and pelvis together, we avoid that rib flare, okay? Especially for those of you who are in the club with me with a sensitive lower back, it is really important that we're not feeling that, first of all, our low back, and we are getting that tightness in our core, tension. Okay, whew, last set. Let's do it. So we're going to give you about 2 more minutes to finish her up. We have 1 more part to our leg strength, and then it is hanging out on the floor time. Wow, look at us go. Okay, last part is our core, our ab work today. But again, we got to finish up right here, and then we have 1 more leg superset to get through. And, you know, we usually put the hardest stuff first, unless it's, you know, it's a cardio day, but not today. So maybe we already got the most challenging stuff over with. We will see, because everyone's different. All right, so we'll get that last set of both of these in. They finishing strong. Thinking about all those things. I know I always give you lots of stuff to think about, but it does make a difference. Especially because we mostly, you know, we're quite limited on equipment. And so using our body weight to the fullest does go a long way. All right. And perfect. Okay, so we're going to take about 60 more seconds to finish those lunges, to finish those hip thrusts, okay? And don't let that rush you. I want you to take your time just as you did on your prior sets that we went through. All right, 20 reps. So that minute that you have right now is pretty much just enough time to finish up that last set of hip thrusts. So we should be approaching, if not starting, that set there. Okay, taking your sweet time with it. And I'm going to set our timer for the final part just to confirm how much time we need. All right, 40. Perfect. All right, so moving on to our final parts of our leg strength. We are going back into a version of a hip thrust, but we're doing this quite differently than we normally do it. We're going to do a foot elevated single leg hip thrust. So I'm going to be using this here chair, and I'm actually going to push it up against this bookcase here so that it doesn't slide out. Okay, this is going to be here, elevating my foot. So I'm going to lay on the floor and scooch myself in nice and close. Get my foot on this chair here. Other one's up in the air. Hands are on the floor. And we're going to push ourselves all the way to the top. So what this is doing, by having an elevation on my foot, I'm increasing the range of motion for the single leg hip thrust, which is already a pretty challenging exercise, okay? And now we're adding in more range to go through, which makes it more challenging, okay? So we want something to elevate our foot, again, whether it's a chair, a bench, a stair, a stool, something to lift us up. And we're going to go through 10 reps on each side, coming all the way down to the floor so our back touches, okay, not our butt, and then pressing all the way up so we get to that full extension and we feel that work happening back there, okay? Again, down all the way, exhale up all the way. This leg's just hanging out. It can be straight, it can be bent, does not matter. What does matter is that the hips go down and the hips come all the way up, okay? So 10 over here, and then we'll switch and we'll do 10 over on this side. Now in this one, it can be very easy to use our hamstrings rather than our glutes. And if that's happening, we're probably too far away. So if you're feeling the hands over your butt, you can scooch in a little bit closer towards that chair, wherever you're using, and see if that helps you get a bit more through the backside and less through the hamstrings. But keep in mind, we're going to feel a little bit of this happening just because of that elevation. Okay, we should, again, feel the glutes. All right. This feels like you get out of like a ride or something when you're done this one, being kind of upside down. All right, so that's our first one. We're going through 10 and 10. I will come back to the option if you don't have this chair, which hopefully you gathered that you just do it off the floor, and that's okay. With this one, we're going to pair this with our 5x5 squats. So I'm going to grab onto my weights, holding both of my 8-pound dumbbells up by my chest here. We're going to get squat stance, okay, a little wider than our hips, slight angle out on our toes. We sit down and we pulse for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we stand, and that's 1, and we do 4 more to make it 5 total. Okay, so the bigger your pulse is, the harder that this is going to be. So if I pulse all the way up here, okay, like this is going to be a lot more challenging than if I keep my pulses little at the bottom. Okay, 5, and then we stand all the way up. Weights are in front of us, not resting on our chest. Okay, if we're working with 1 dumbbell, we can hold it goblet or bow tie style, whatever floats your boat. And if you're working without dumbbells, you're just holding your hands here, okay? Working with those 5, with the 5 pulses, very controlled pulses. All right, 5 of them, and then we repeat. So we'll let you guys work through that 3 more rounds. Back to the hip thrust, no rest, okay? We're going back to back between these 2, and let's do it, okay? Back to our single leg hip thrust. Now there is one more way to do this one, okay? If you don't have a chair or bench, you can do this one off of a wall. Now, I'm wearing socks on the wall here. We have to be careful because sometimes our feet can slide depending on how slippery our feet are and our wall is. But what we can do is put that foot on the wall like this, and then you can go through your set of the hip thrust like this, okay? Which is going to, again, elevate us and overall just give us that same benefit as if we were using the chair, the bench, the stool, whatever it is, all right? But again, if you don't want to put your feet on your wall, sorry, Mom, just kidding. My feet are clean, but I get it. So you can just do this one off of the floor, and again, just try to make sure you're getting to the top every rep. For your 10 and your 10, okay? So we'll move right back onto our squats for our second set. All right, so back to those 5x5 squats. It's been a bit. Welcome back. We've taken some time away from these, but we are back with these pulsing squats. These ones can be quite tedious, but the nice thing about them is that they're very short on reps. We're only doing the 5 reps, so they're kind of like done before we realize what's going on. But keep in mind that your legs are going to be burning like crazy. Very important here that we're controlling everything, okay? The pulses, everything is happening for a reason. We're being as intentional as we can. We're not just bouncing, okay, and standing up. That's first of all not very safe to do for our core, as we can end up sort of arching our back like this. But also, it's not going to give us very much for our legs compared to if we slow down and we go through these pulses like we're hitting points. We go down and then we come up to the top and then we go back down, okay, rather than just bouncing up and down, and you'll feel the difference. You might not like it, but you will when you're so strong and your leg endurance has improved, okay? So think about like when you run up a flight of stairs and your legs are burning like crazy, your quads, that is what we're trying to improve, is to expose them to that burn and expose them to that lactic acid. That's what we're feeling, is that release of the fluid in our muscles that causes that burning. So you can work through this burn, whether you like it or not. All right, so 2 more sets. Yeah, we have lots of time. We have about 4 minutes, maybe 5, if you're lucky, to finish this up before we need to get on down there and finish up with our final core circuit, our ab circuit, which takes us 12 minutes today, exactly. Okay. All right. So hip thrusts. Okay, 10 and 10. With the foot elevated, very nice. And right onto the squats, and then we have 1 final set to go of both. And we're done here for the legs, that is. Just got the abs. Okay, we got plugged in. Perfect. All right, so get on down there. Let's finish up this final set. Okay, 10 and 10. Last round. Last time you are here for the hip thrusts for today, the week. Woo. Okay, so finish strong. And then with our last set of our squats. All right, so again, we should feel like we need to stop. 5 is it. It's all we can do. And again, sometimes we might have to take her a little bit slower, especially now on your last set, okay? Because this is it. It's the last time that you're going to do these ones. So maybe we just want to, take it a little bit slower. Maybe make our pulses a bit bigger as we go through them. Whatever we need to do, and everyone's different. You might have to do nothing, okay? You might have to just do what you did on the first 3 sets that you went through. But for some of us, it's hard to push ourselves, especially when we're alone, in a room or in a garage or wherever we are. But again, that's why you're here. So you're going to feel better if you can really challenge yourself through this one, okay? These ones that can be very easy to rush through. This is my final reminder to not rush, okay? Now, as we're finishing up, we have about 2 more minutes of time before we should be starting our final part. So I'll give you less than 1 to finish this up. Last part, we need nothing, okay? Just this one wonderful piece of equipment, our body and our mat, all right? So as you come to an end on your squats, you can go ahead and walk those dumbbells away, put them away wherever you keep them, or just slide them out of the way so that you're not going to trip on them or have them be in your way. The other thing we don't need is your chair. Again, you don't have to move it, but if it takes up space like mine does, then we're going to get her out of the way. All right, so last part we are going through is down on the floor. Yes, but you already knew that because I warned you. We're going to be working off of this timer right here, which is set for 40 seconds on and 20 seconds off. So we're working for 40 seconds, resting for 20 seconds. We have 3 exercises, and we're going to complete 4 rounds of these 3 movements. So let's get down here. Okay, we're going to start off with this first one. Talk about it a little before I actually press start on the timer. And then for the other 2, we will show you them on the timer within that first set. So this first one's a variation of a VI. So we want to sit up in this position here. First thing we want to do is walk our hips back. So we're sitting right on the bottom of our sit bones, not on the back of our tailbone. Okay, so that's number 1. Next thing we're going to do is lift up our legs, lift up our arms, and then we're going to be crossing, making contact with our elbow and our knees, straightening out our opposite leg, and then coming across to the other side. So we're doing this upright bicycle, okay? And I'm going to press start on this so that you don't waste any of that energy right there. And we are going to go through our first set, all right? 3, 2, 1, and let's go. All right, let's do it. Now, this one is much harder than it looks, okay? Hopefully I make it look easy, but it is not easy. So if you are struggling here, what you can do is have your feet be down like this and just pull up one at a time, like so. Okay, still trying to make that contact, elbow in the knee, keeping your chest up and remembering to breathe. These are very important parts to this one, not holding your breath. Okay, less than 15 seconds. Let's do it. Let's go. This one is much more challenging than our normal bicycles. There we go. And rest. Very nice. Okay, so second one, well, and the last one too, but second one's on our back. We're going to lay on our back here and lift up our legs. Okay, keep in mind, we do have this little time on the clock, but I'll show you this one here. Triangle in the hands. So hands are together. We're going to reach our arms back behind us, touch the floor, and then exhale, crunch up, and try to touch our toes. Okay, most of us are not going to be able to touch our toes, but we're going in that direction so our shoulder blades leave the floor, both of them, every rep. So inhaling down, exhaling up. Okay, going through these ones, trying to really focus on lifting up using your upper abs. Okay, you'll feel this one up there. 15 more seconds left. Lower back is pushed into the floor tight the entire time, especially back here. You want to focus on tightening up that low back. Okay, keep it working here. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Okay, you can relax your legs. Woo! Last one is right here. Okay, so don't go anywhere. We're going to stay right here. Before you start, just watch me here. We're going to walk our hips up on each side so we can put our arms underneath our legs. Lifting our legs back up to the top. We're working with a reverse crunch. So I'm going to exhale and lift my hips up. Inhale and lift them back down. Trying to control so I don't just fall onto the mat. Okay, I want to control that down phase as much as possible. And don't worry about how high you get your hips. Okay, don't worry about it. But again, it's important that we don't come down and make that hard contact with our tailbone. I just have a pop-up coming up here. 15 seconds left. So we'll keep working through this one. There we go. Very nice. Okay. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Very nice. Okay. So we're doing it again. 3 more times. I already warned you. So we're going to sit up onto the second set, back to the first one. Okay, so we're going to walk the hips back. We're going to lift up the legs, lift up the chest. Arms are back, fingertips on the back of the head. And then we cross. We straighten out that opposite leg. And we try to do all this simultaneously. So I'm straightening, bending, and then I switch and rotate. Okay, so we'll work through this one. 20 more seconds. And then when in doubt, you can raise your heels on the floor and then lift up opposite knee. Okay, as we kind of improve on this one, we can start to straighten out the legs, and then eventually you'll be able to do this with the leg back. There you go. 3, 2, 1. Time. All right, we go down. All right, couple deep breaths. Onto our toe touches. So we'll lift up those legs, arms, make that triangle with our hands, and push our low back down into the floor. And that was our starting beat. So let's do it. Going through these ones and exhaling as we crunch up. Okay, in this one, you might also feel some work happening in your neck, as there are muscles that run down the sides, front, and back of the neck. So we'll just make sure to keep the chin tucked and not poke our head forward. We want to keep our head back so that we're not kind of reaching with our head and neck like this, but rather it just kind of stays set, tucked chin. All right, let's go. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Okay, but don't go anywhere because we're going to go into that last one, which are our reverse crunches. Okay, so another one that we've done before, but it has been a hot minute since we've had these reverse crunches in our program. They are back. So we are going to try to improve whatever we got going on today over the next few weeks, 4 weeks. Okay, so we'll see if we can, again, control. So we lift up, we don't let our hips fall. Although today you might find that you can't really control that. This one, you also might feel some tension in your lower back, as that tends to happen when we use a lot of ab. Okay, that happens for every muscle. When we overwork or we put a muscle under more stress than it's used to, it calls out and reaches out to the opposing muscles to help it out, which is why you sometimes feel that aching kind of lower back pain when we're doing core work and ab work like this. Okay, and rest, if I distracted you. Woo! So take some deep breaths, okay? We're gonna go into our third set. I don't know why my computer is just loving pop-ups this morning. There we go. And third set, starting in 3, 2, 1. Let's do it. I just sat on something pokey. All right, on to this one here. Just do it. Okay, chest up, leading with those elbows and breathing. All right, it can be very easy, especially in ab work, to hold your breath. And sometimes, we can think it kind of makes it feel a little easier. Only thing that does is makes you lightheaded and dizzy when you finish your set. So we'll keep that breath flowing. Every rep, 10 more seconds, especially on one like this that is really freaking hard, if I do say so myself. I think you can agree. 3, 2, 1, rest. Great work. All right. Toe touches. Toe touches. 20 seconds. That seems like a long time, but when you're putting it between these movements, it's not feel like a long time. All right, on to that next one. Let's do it. So for those of you who are not so flexible, and you can see I'm a little bit tight here, our legs, again, they're straight, but we don't have to stress about locking them out and making them completely straight. We can have a slight bend in the knees, and that's so our feet are up high, and we have that reference point of a place to reach our hands. For those of you who are wanting to make this a bit harder, we can do this crunch and reach above our head or behind our head rather than towards the toes. Okay, you can try that now. Maybe on your last set, and you'll see and you'll feel the difference that it makes. It makes it much more challenging than reaching towards your toes themselves. Rest. Nice job. Okay, reverse crunches. Very nice. Okay, so arm down. Again, we'll try to kind of shift our hips right and left so we have that support from our arms. Lift up those legs and let's go. Exhaling. Trying to lift those hips off the floor, even if it's just a little. And we don't want to lower the legs. Okay, sometimes we see these done and the legs lower and lift all the way up. We're not focusing on that. All we want is this reverse crunch. Okay, us using our abs and our core to lift our hips up off the floor. 15 seconds left. There you go. Okay, so use your breath. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and time. Okay, this is it. My calculations are correct. Yes, our last set. Let's do it. On to this first one. Getting her done. Because I think it's the hardest one. Maybe. I don't know. Those reverse crunches are up there. Okay, so we're going to walk our hips back. Ready or not, let's go. That was your starting beat. So we'll go through these ones and trying to switch sides, keep our chest up as high as we can. Doing whatever you did on those first 3 sets. Keeping in mind this is your last one. So we'll try to push ourselves through for 15 more seconds. You got this. You do. It's not going to be easy. But you already knew that. 10 seconds. Okay. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Okay, laying down on your back for the last 2. Toe touches, reverse crunches, and then we are out of here. Okay, we do have a couple stretches that I'm going to leave you with today, which we will talk about when we're done here. starting your toe touches right now. Let's go. Lift the legs up, hands together. Okay, and then try to keep our back down the entire time, especially when you're reaching your arms back there. Maybe you want to try on this last set here to challenge yourself a bit more. Maybe do that reaching kind of above your head or behind your head rather than towards the toes. See how it feels. You can always go back to the first ones, to the toe touches. 15 seconds left. There we go. All right. Breathe in to the end. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and rest. All right, one more. One more. Reverse crunches. Okay, this is the one. Now this is going to be the hardest set. We're the most tired. We've done all this stuff before. We've already done 3 sets. We'll try our best so we can keep as strong as we did on those first sets that we went through. Something else that you can try on this one is doing it with bent legs. So those of you who are really feeling tension in your lower back, or if you feel like you cannot get your hips up, they just don't want to lift, you can try bending in your legs more rather than having them straight like this, as it tends to sort of put the weight of the legs this way, and it makes it a bit easier to actually lift up your hips, okay? So 15 seconds. Let's do it. Finishing just as strong as you started, my friends. Come on now. All right, couple more of them. I know you don't want to do them. Your body doesn't want to do them, but you're here. 3, 2, 1, and that is nice work. Okay, so we are done. The core work, and you're probably feeling a lot through here as well as maybe again through the low back. So we're going to turn over and get this stretch party started on our hands and our knees, working with this cat-cow. So rounding our back, tucking our chin. Big breath in, and then we exhale and move into the arch, pushing our ribs down, opening up our abs in the front. Oh, it feels so good after doing that stuff. And then we go through that one 5 times total, okay? Keep in mind you can do more if you want, but we'll go through 5 of these right here, right now, okay, as we finish up our ab work. Then you're gonna wanna do this one. It feels so nice. So we'll go through 5 of those inhales and exhales. When we're finished 5, which probably have maybe 1 or 2 more of, we will sit down on those heels, walk our hands away, okay, into this child's pose, which is a really good one to do after that cat-cow, as it's going to help reinforce and stretch out your spine. So we should tuck our chin in again, so we feel this back of the neck all the way down to the back of the hips, opening up your back, okay? Stretching it out. So for this one, you can hold this upward to a minute, 30 seconds, 1 minute. We'll stay here for another 10 seconds together so we can get this stretch in. The other stretches that I'm going to show you, you can do on your timer, okay? We're going to just talk about them because there are 3 of them. We are close to out of time. So we'll finish up coming out of this one. We're going to go through these stretches. You can start this first one and hold it, okay, so it kind of saves you time, or you can just watch and listen and then set your timer once we're finished. Hip flexors, very important because we did all that core work right there. We also did a lot of work that involved the hips in our lower body strength that we went through. So hold on to something, half kneeling hip flexor stretch. We want to do that pelvic tilt where we tilt our pelvis under. We're getting a nice stretch on the kneeling side, front of the hip. And we're going to hold this here for 1 minute, okay? So again, this is where I want you to get out your timer or just watch a clock in your house, whatever you got going on, and you are going to hold 60 seconds on this side, and then you're going to switch and do 60 seconds on this side, okay? There's 2 more that I would like you to do as well. Glutes, okay? You're going to be happy to do these ones. They're going to feel very nice after all that stuff we did. So this is another one that you can hold 60 seconds on each side, 1 minute over here. And then we'll switch and we'll do 1 minute over here. The final one that we're going to do is our sitting up, stretching out our legs as wide as we need to so that we can sit upright. Okay, toes are going to point up to the ceiling, and then we're going to walk our hands forward, rounding our back. Okay, so this one's going to open up the back of the legs as well as give you a nice stretch through the low back. Okay, this is another one You hang out here for about 1 minute. So if you do one set of all those stretches, it's going to take you about 5 to 6 minutes. If you have time, you can do a second or third set as well if you're tight, okay? If you feel like you like stretching, then throw it in, but please get at least one set in because it's going to help loosen up all of the stuff that we did today, okay? But you, my friends, are done with me on this here Monday. Hopefully you feel good, and if you don't, you will soon, as soon as you go and eat and shower and get all that stuff done, get your day started. Thank you so much for another awesome session. I'll see you tomorrow for our upper body thanks tennis, for hanging out with me in the Zoom room. And if you are watching the replay, you can drop a comment below so I know you were here and I know you got this done. And yeah, hopefully you feel good. Have a good day.